Every legend begins with a secret. For centuries, whispers of impossible creatures have haunted our world. Dragons soaring through the skies, vampires rising from their graves, werewolves cursed under the full moon, and monsters from the deep that could swallow sheep whole. But what if these aren't just stories? What if the creatures we call mythical were born from real events, real fears, and truth so dark they were buried beneath centuries of folklore? The dragon might not have been a fire-breathing fantasy, but a terrifying warning. The vampire may not have been an immortal monster, but something far closer to us than we'd ever dare believe. These beings were never just entertainment, they were explanations, they were warnings, and perhaps they were reflections of something hidden in humanity itself. Tonight, we uncover the darkest secrets of legendary creatures, and what you're about to discover may change everything you thought you knew about monsters. Long before science, the world was terrifying. Imagine standing in a storm with no explanation for thunder. Imagine watching crops die under a blue-red sky, or seeing loved one fall ill with no cure in sight. For ancient people, the world was alive with forces they could not see, and those forces had to be explained. So, they created stories. A dragon was not just a beast, it was fire itself, raging out of control. A sea monster was not just a fantasy, it was the embodiment of the ocean wrath. A vampire wasn't a fairy tale, it was death given a face. By naming these fears, humanity made them feel real, but also in a strange way, manageable. A monster could be fought, a curse could be broken, a god could be appeased. But there's another side to this story. Not all legends came from fear alone. Some were shaped deliberately by those in power. Priests described demons and werewolves as punishment for sin, keeping people loyal to the church. Kings and warriors told tales of dragons to glory their victories. Rulers spread stories of monsters lurking beyond the borders, warning people never to wander too far. Legends were not just explanations, they were warnings, they were lessons, and they were tools of control. Think about it, the werewolf isn't only about a man turning into a beast, it's about what happens when we lose control of our darkest instincts. The vampire isn't just a bloodsucker, it's a symbol of greed, corruption and decay. Even the Kraken, terrifying sailors, served as a reminder of just how powerless humans were against the sea. The truth is, these creatures were never really about the monsters themselves. They were about us, our fears, our struggles, and our need to give the darkness a name. From the very beginning, our monsters were mirrors, and in their eyes, humanity saw its own reflection. Of all legendary creatures, none captured the imagination quite like the dragon. Across the world, from Europe to Asia, from the Middle East to the Americas, humans have told stories of massive serpent-like beasts with wings, claws and fiery breath. And yet, these dragons are not all the same. In the West, dragons are nightmares. They are destroyers, fire-breathing monsters who hoard gold, devour livestock and reduce kingdoms to ashes. Medieval knights told stories of slaying dragons as the ultimate test of bravery. Entire villages were said to live in fear of those winged terrors, sacrificing virgins and treasures to keep them satisfied. But in the East, the dragon was something very different. In Chinese mythology, dragons were protectors of water and sky, bringers of rainfall, symbols of wisdom, guardians of fortune. Instead of feared, they were honored, prayed to, even celebrated. To see a dragon was to be blessed. How could the same creature mean such opposite things? Some scholars believe the answer lies in history and geography. In Europe, people uncover massive bones and fossils, remnants of dinosaurs and prehistoric animals. To them, these stranger skeletons look like proof of giant, fire-breathing lizards. Add in the fear of invading forces, plague and natural disasters, and suddenly the dragon becomes a perfect symbol of chaos and destruction. But in China, dragons were tied to rivers, floods and rain, and lifeblood of agriculture. A good harvest meant survival, and so dragons become sacred. They weren't enemies, they were guardians. There is another darker possibility. Some historians suggest that the dragon myths may have been shaped as propaganda. In medieval Europe, tales of knights slaying dragons were less about killing monsters and more about glorifying power. The knight stood for civilization, order, and fate, while the dragon represented chaos, greed, or even foreign enemies. To slay the dragon was to prove not just the courage, but loyalty to the crown, the church, and the social order. Even in the East, dragons may not have been as benevolent as we think. Some legends describe them as fierce, unpredictable forces that demanded respect, or punishment would follow, a reminder that nature, while life-giving, could also destroy in an instant. The truth is this: dragons were never simply beasts of fantasy. They were mirrors of how humans understood the world. For some, they represented destructions, greed, and the unknown. For others, wisdom, balance, and divine power. The question is, when you face the dragon, will it burn you to ash or guide you toward the fortune? Far to the north, in the icy waters of Norway and Greenland, sailors told stories of a beast so massive it could drag an entire ship into the depths. They call it the Kraken. Described as a monstrous sea creature with tentacles the size of masts, the Kraken was said to rise suddenly from the ocean, wrapping ships in its grasp and pulling them beneath the waves. To those at sea, it was the embodiment of terror, proof that the ocean itself was alive, hungry, and unforgiving. But where did the legend came from? Some believe the Kraken has its roots in real creatures, the giant squid and colossal squid, both of which inhabited the darkest parts of the ocean, with eyes the size of dinner plates and tentacles covered in sharp hooks. These squids are rare, but undeniably real. Imagine a sailor centuries ago catching a glimpse of one surfacing near their boat. To a frightened crew, it wouldn't just be an animal, it would be a monster. Other theories suggest the Kraken was used as a warning. Norse seafarers may have spread tales of the beast to keep inexperienced sailors away from dangerous waters. The Kraken wasn't only a monster of the sea, it was a story designed to protect trade routes and to remind sailors that the ocean showed no mercy. But the darkest part of Kraken myth is it doesn't need to exist to be real. Because in the endless void of the ocean, where storms strike without warning and survival is never guaranteed, fear itself becomes the monster. The Kraken represents the terror of the unknown depths, a fear that even now, with all our technology, still lingers every time we look into the abyss. And perhaps that fear is exactly what keeps the legend alive. Few creatures strike fear like the werewolf, the cursed human who transforms under the full moon into a ravenous beast. The legend of the werewolf is as old as civilization itself. In ancient Greece, the myth of King Lycaon tells of a ruler punished by Zeus, transformed into a wolf after serving human flesh to the gods. To the Romans, tales of men becoming werewolves were symbols of savagery and forbidden rituals. By the Middle Ages, the legend grew darker. In Europe, werewolves were feared as servants of the devil. Anyone accused of lycanthropy, the supposed ability to turn into a wolf, could be haunted, tortured, or burned at the stake. To villagers, a werewolf wasn't just a monster, it was their neighbor, cursed to kill under the moonlight. But the darkest secret of the werewolf myth may lie not in curses, but in reality. Historians now believe that many so-called werewolves may have been ordinary people suffering from misunderstood illnesses. Rabies, for instance, can cause aggression, biting, and foaming at the mouth, eerily similar to the attacks described in medieval accounts. Another condition, hypertrichosis, covers the body in thick hair, earning it the name werewolf syndrome. To terrified villagers this affliction were proof of monstrous transformation. Yet beyond disease and folklore, the werewolf carries a deeper meaning. It represents the beast within the primal instincts humans try to bury: rage, hunger, desire, the fear that under the right condition anyone could lose control. Perhaps that's why the werewolf endures. It's not just a story of a cursed man, it's a reflection of us all, a reminder that the line between man and the beast is thinner than we'd like to believe, and under the light of the full moon, that line disappears. Few legends are as enduring or as terrifying as the vampire. In the dark villages of Eastern Europe, fear of the undead ran deep. When a villager died suddenly, when livestock were found drained of blood, when disease spread through the town, whispers began. Perhaps the dead had risen. Graves were dug up, corpses were staked through the heart, some were decapitated, others burned. For centuries people truly believed that the vampire walked among them, a restless corpse, feeding on the living. But where did this fear begin? In Slavic folklore, the vampire was not the glamorous immortal figure we know today. It was a bloated, corpse-like creature, skin stretched tight, face red with the blood of its victims. Far from elegant, it was horrifyingly grotesque. Some legends claim vampires were created when people died with unfinished businesses. Others said suicides or the unburied could return to torment the living. Yet, beneath the horror lies something darker, something disturbingly real. Modern science suggests that many vampire myths may have roots in misunderstood diseases. Rabies, causing sensitivity to light, aggression, and the urge to bite. Tuberculosis, slowly draining the life from entire families, as if something were feeding on them in the night. Porphyria, a rare condition that blisters the skin in sunlight and can cause red, receding gums that make teeth appear sharp and fang-like. To villagers with no medical knowledge, these weren't illnesses, they were curses, proof that the undead were real. There is even a darker layer. In some parts of the Balkans and Romania, people believed that vampires were not supernatural, but real humans who somehow cheated death. People accused of vampirism were often outsiders, scapegoats, or the sick, killed not because they were monsters, but because fear demanded it. And the most chilling part, Some of these rituals survived well into the 20th century. In certain rural areas, graves were still opened, corpses still stalked, even as the modern world marched on. The vampire, then, is not just a myth. It is a mirror of human fear, fear of death, of disease, of outsiders, of what lurks in the dark. But the vampire also endures, because it touches something deeper in us, the desire for immortality, the terror of dying, mixed with the fantasy of living forever, even at a terrible price. That is the true power of the vampire. It is not just the monster of the night, it is the shadow of humanity oldest dream, to never die. Not all legendary creatures breathe fire or drink blood. Some wear a different mask, one that hides even darker truths. Take the mermaid. Today, we imagine her as a beautiful, enchanting, half-woman, half-fish. But in the oldest myths, mermaids were omens of disasters. Sailors feared their songs, which lure men to their deaths. Some cultures believed that spotting a mermaid meant storms, shipwrecks, and certain doom. Beneath the beauty was death itself, waiting in the waves. Or consider the Minotaur, born from Greek mythology. This half-man, half-bull monster was imprisoned in a labyrinth, a punishment, a curse, and a secret. Every year, innocent youths were sacrificed to appease it. The Minotaur wasn't just a beast, it was a symbol of cruelty and power, a reminder that rulers sometimes create monsters not to frighten, but to control. And then there is the jackalope. At first it sounds absurd. A rabbit with antlers, a trick of tall tales, a hunter's joke. But this myth too has a dark root in reality. In some cases, rabbits infected by a virus grew horn-like tumors on their heads, transforming them into grotesque figures. To those who saw them, it wasn't a joke. It was a proof that nature itself could twist into something monstrous. Each of these creatures may seem very different, but their secrets are the same. They are warnings, lessons, shadows of the world around us. The mermaid warns of the sea's power, the minotaur warns of human cruelty, the jackalope warns that even nature can betray its own form. Not every monster needs claws or fangs. Sometimes the most chilling legends are born from truth itself. Monsters have always walked beside us, even if only in our minds. But why do we create them? Psychologists suggest that monsters are more than stories. They are reflections of the human psyche. They are the faces we give to our deepest fears, and sometimes to our darkest desires. The werewolf is not only a beast, it's the terror of losing control, of surrendering the primal instincts. The vampire is not only the undead, it's our obsession with death, immortality, and forbidden hunger. The Kraken is not just a sea monster, it's the embodiment of the unknown, of chaos waiting beneath the surface. Every culture creates its own monsters, and each one reveals what the society feared the most: famine, war, disease, chaos, or even itself. But here lies the unsettling truth. Monsters also serve a purpose. They warn us, they teach us, and they help us confront what we cannot name. When we imagine the werewolf, the vampire, the dragon, we are not only telling stories, we are looking into the mirror. And what stares back is not just a creature of myth, it is us, our rage, our greed, our fear of the unknown. The darkest secrets of legendary creature is not that they exist in the shadow, but that they live inside us, and they always have. So what have we uncovered tonight? Dragons, once seen as destroyers in the west, yet guardians in the east. The Kraken, a terror of the deep, born from both real creature and the fears of the sea. Werewolves, cursed by legend, yet perhaps born from misunderstood illnesses and our fear of the beast within. Vampires, grotesque in their origin, tied not only to myth but to very real human disease and our obsession with immortality. And other legends from mermaids to minotaurs to jackalopes, each one carrying its own dark reflection of human culture. What becomes clear is this: legendary creatures are not just stories, they are masks, mirrors of our fears, our warnings, our struggles. They endure because the truths they reveal are timeless. Perhaps that is why we still tell these stories, because deep down we need our monsters. They remind us of what we fear most and what we might become. So now I'll ask you, which legendary creature fascinates you most and why? Do you see it as a monster, a warning, or a reflection of yourself? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're enjoying uncovering the darkest secrets of legendary creatures, make sure to like this video, subscribe and join me for the next journey where even deeper mysteries await. Because the world is full of shadows, and in those shadows monsters still live.